Hi, Fort friends! February's Steam Next Fest is in full effect for the next week, featuring hundreds of demos for upcoming games. And considering game news is what we do best, we've spent the last month playing dozens of demos to get a taste of what's to come. As always, we have a special blend of genres here, offering adventurous RPGs with a nice dose of action and combat, while also catering to our cozy game lovers and more casual simulation types. We've taken the liberty of sorting the video itself by genre and included them in the chapter descriptions as well, so feel free to skip through any that you don't particularly enjoy. Of course, I've formatted the video to be enjoyable to watch all the way through, so consider checking out some of the other games, even if they aren't your typical cup of tea. You never know when something new might spark your interest. While we are featuring 18 of the demos we played in the last month in this video, we have chosen a special few to feature their own standalone videos for. Links to those can be found in the description, so if there's something you've been looking for that isn't here, it's likely down there. With all the nitty-gritty details out of the way, let's jump into all the great games we had the privilege of playing a demo for, that you too can experience for at least the next week. Our first feature is one for our co-op, open-world survival lovers, especially if you enjoy an island-hopping, ocean-loving theme. We've not been quiet about our excitement for Voyagers of Nera, and we recently, finally, hopped into the demo of it. First, as typical in the survival genre, we're just sort of spit out onto an island and given some helpful tips and tutorials on how to proceed with securing supplies for building a home. Once you're settled, you'll be taking on the local monsters to find mana and special resources, and, of course, harvesting the plants and shiny stones of the world to slowly improve your living situation. Now, when I first wrote my first impressions thoughts on Voyagers of Nera, I was a little on the fence. The game lacked some basic functions, such as the ability to sleep through the night, and the combat felt a bit rough around the edges. That wasn't my only complaint, but I'm happy to state that everything I'd originally griped about has already been fixed with their most recent demo update. You can now sleep through the night, combat has been improved, multiple bugs have been squashed, and they even overhauled their fuel system to be way more forgiving. With these improvements, I can absolutely say the game is on track to be incredibly enjoyable, especially with friends. It's also a great tell that this team is truly dedicated to listening to their players' feedback and is intent on making an experience we can all enjoy. Hats off to the Voyagers of Nera team, as I'm really looking forward to playing the full release with Derek. Now, honestly, if I have to pick one game from this list to say I enjoyed more than I expected to, it would be Call of Elyndra. What starts as a deceivingly simple farming sim set in medieval times morphs into a cozy yet adventurous RPG that will have you traversing through dungeons, solving puzzles, and collecting rare loot, all after you've tended to your garden. What's nice is that we get our typical relationship and townie systems that our friends in the cozy genre seem to adore, yet we're also granted that sense of adventure that keeps an experience like this feeling fresh. After speaking with the devs about it as well, they're planning for over 30 hours of story content, so it's not going to be your typical mundane farm chores that somehow keeps you entertained through excessive amounts of decorative objects. Yes, there will be a purpose to playing through a full year of the game, and a ton of story-driven content to keep you engaged with the world and people around you. I have to admit, something that leans more towards the RPG genre, yet has a few of the cozy and casual systems we love as well, is definitely something that sits towards the top of my can't wait to playlist. Cattle Country is another pixel life sim on the 2025 horizon, and honestly, it's a delight to the senses. with art that stands above the typical in the pixel genre, and a Wild West theme that adds a new level of rootin' and tootin' to our gameplay, I honestly was overjoyed that I got to get an early look at it prior to the Steam Next Fest event itself. Now, I have to say, despite how much personality is present in the game and NPCs, I personally think they threw too much at us in the demo. We were able to experience 1 week of in-game time, and there's just so little to actually do, and so few NPC interactions and map availability, that it's hard to understand what the scope of the game will be, and if we'll enjoy the gameplay experience itself. What made us feel this the most was on day 1, we'd already had tons of decorative items to play around with on the ranch, but that made doing the in-game tasks feel a little pointless. Of course, they wanted us to get a look at the building options and customization in the game. And that's appreciated, but it just made the experience feel a bit disjointed. That said, I love what we got to see. From the array of farm and home decorations to the huge plot size of our land, and the fact that we get a horse right from day 1. There's just a lot to love about the game. I'm looking forward to them connecting the why to the what with the full release. If you're the type to enjoy a good eerie, mystery-esque meets adventure game, then let me present you with Arctic Awakening. Right from the start, it's clear that this one will have us fighting for survival alongside attempting to solve the mystery of where we are and why our plane crashed. Don't worry though, you'll have a less than helpful emotional support robot to help you along your journey, and an old work buddy whose humor will keep us warm in the winter snow. Jokes aside, I actually felt myself getting sucked into this one, despite the short length of the demo. The eerily tense atmosphere of the game, mixed with my having to muster up enough courage to go chase off what we believed to be a bear, that then morphed into weird glowing robots watching us while we slept, well, it kept me on the edge of my seat enough to make me understand why cats need 9 lives. They say curiosity is a killer, and with what happened at the end of the demo, it might actually be a killer. Though, sadly, we'll have to wait for the full release to get the entire story. That said, if you're the type to love a great, interactive, story-rich adventure, then I'd recommend getting this one on your radar quickly. If you're looking for something a bit more adventurous that'll have you plane flying, island hopping, and parcel delivering, might I point you towards Lou's Lagoon. Now, this demo in particular was quite short as well, so we don't get an awfully big look at the scope of the game, but I was quite entertained by the systems that already exist in it. In typical life sims, we're usually handed a rusty old pickaxe, woodcutter axe, and maybe a fishing pole and a hoe if we're lucky. However, Lou's Lagoon is throwing away that old system and replacing it with some newer tech. By that I mean a device that does all of it at once. From mining stone and ore, to picking up scrap, and stripping bark from the trees, our handy all-in-one tool can be upgraded and advanced the same way older tools can be, but saves us hours of tool switching and sore wrists from unnecessary amounts of clicking. So that's a huge win in my book. Its playful graphics and fun system of flying your trusty plane to explore and deliver goods all over the world only complement a fluid tool system. So despite how short the demo was, I'm honestly excited for Lou's Lagoon's full release and future. If you're looking for something more challenging to try this Steam Next Fest, we're happy to introduce you to Sojourn Past. This 2D action-adventure game blends bullet hell with hack-and-slash combat to create some incredibly fun and engaging experiences. You'll need to master your movement big time if you want to conquer this world's trials. I also particularly love the puzzle elements they've baked into the map, offering us hidden secrets and collectibles in the most unlikely of places. If you're someone who loves a touch of story with their action combat, then you'll be happy to know that it comes woven into this one brilliantly, offering gorgeous graphics and heartfelt moments that will absolutely pull at your heartstrings. I tend to struggle to get into this genre, with Derek being the one who usually tackles them. But even I can admit this one had me reconsidering and playing longer than I planned. For our fans of Diablo-esque games, I'm happy to share with you Dragonkin: The Banished. This beautiful isometric adventure RPG will toss you into a world devastated by dragons and magic. The look we got in the demo alone proves that there will be no shortage of story, and I can happily say the gameplay was incredibly addicting. Though this game is single player, at least for now, it does offer you multiple classes to choose from and a variety of skills to optimize your build and abilities to your liking, catering to a multitude of playstyles. Want to smack things on the head with your sword and shield? Great. Prefer a ranger that fights from a distance? They've got you covered. The other thing that truly puts this one a step above most is its gorgeous graphics. I couldn't get over the level of detail in both the visuals and audio, and we got merely more than a taste. So color me excited for the early access release coming in March. If you're not a fan of the idea of going it alone, don't worry, multiplayer is already on their roadmap, set to come this autumn. The next game on our list is one that's sure to delight any fans of the classic Pokemon games. Portal Fantasy, though, is blending that beloved RPG experience with the creature collector genre, offering us an open-world exploration with puzzles to solve and dozens of quests to find and complete. You'll be darting around town, learning about the lore of the world, and then adventuring out into the wilderness to battle and tame Wurbles. As typical, the more you battle and collect, the stronger your team gets. However, we get a bit of a twist to the typical creature collector feel, as rather than simply releasing any cute critters we no longer need, or forever storing them in a databank never to see daylight again, we can actually disenchant them for different essences and use the resources we gain to enhance our current team and provide great battle boosts. I particularly love this idea as it's a clever way to make collecting lower-level creatures feel purposeful. On top of collecting, there's also recipes and crafting, and my personal favorite, the ability to loot tons of random objects in the game for secret treasures that may or may not be worth the time it took you to search every spare box or barrel for, but I'll be darned if I'm not doing it anyway. Needless to say, if classic pixel RPG games with Pokemon vibes are your thing, then I'd toss this one on your wishlist ASAP. Calling all chaos lovers. That actually isn't a joke with our next feature, as Grandma No is all about causing trouble as a peskily rambunctious grandma who really needs to pipe down a bit before she burns the whole neighborhood to the ground. While this demo was incredibly short, the amount of trouble you can get up to in it isn't limited to just annoying the birds relaxing in the window or handing your grandchild dangerous objects for them to throw. Yes, if setting your entire house on fire, breaking every object with a baseball bat, or perhaps electrocuting yourself with every light socket sounds like a good time, then this is one to get on your wish list quickly. While I tend to struggle to get through games like this, since there isn't much purpose other than causing utter chaos, I have to admit it had me giggling while Derek was peeking over my shoulder asking me if I'd just received a quest to relieve pressure, aka fart 3 times in a row. With a laugh, I confirmed that I had indeed received that quest, and you can bet if it's a quest, I complete it every time. And so it stands, if you're looking for a game to do nothing but be a goofy grandma with some questionable quests, then this one is absolutely for you. Okay, this next feature has admittedly won my heart. And while I would have put it in its own video, our available video slots had already been claimed by the time it slid into our email inbox. That being said, if you're a cooking sim lover and especially enjoy games with an anime theme and art style, then you absolutely need to give kitchen sink Aloha a serious moment of your time. This one is incredibly deceptive with its simple pixel art style for the kitchen and cooking segments. But make no mistake, there's tons of story and wholesomeness from the characters baked in at every step. It had me giddy and telling Derek I needed to stop playing the demo because I could absolutely see myself enjoying the full release. And I didn't want to spoil that experience by getting too far into it. Why is it so darn enjoyable, you ask? Well, what seems to be a simple kitchen sim is actually layered with relationship systems that affect cooking quality, recipes that can be improved to appease even the most harsh critics, and even fun mini-games that will have you sending your chefs on a hike to increase their bond levels. There are even 2 levels of gameplay for if you truly just want a cozy experience or prefer to sweat a little while in the kitchen. It's clever and already well-polished, with a relaxing island music vibe that will have you saying aloha to random strangers. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but it definitely put me in a good mood, and I can't wait to see its full release. Alright, I know a fair few who have been waiting for this title with sparkly anime eyes, and as such, we decided to hop into the demo and give it a fair look. If you haven't heard of it yet, it's an adorable little gardening sim that blends clever puzzle mechanics and squishes it down to pocket-sized fun. It's also appropriately named Tiny Garden. Rather than massive fields, we're given a few patches of dirt to start, and it's up to us to work with what we've got. You'll be growing simple things like turnips and carrots that grow in one twist of your turning device, and eventually trade them up to unlock new seeds, decorations, and even new crop types. Each plant will have its own preferred growing conditions, and you'll need to utilize your space well if you want to be successful in unlocking the more difficult plants. You don't just have garden plots though, and will be allowed a pocket-sized home to fill up with your favorite knickknacks too. My personal favorite thing was the ability to change the color scheme of the ball, your furniture, and even the crops. I will say that the demo was quite short, and I imagine the full game will be too, as there only seemed to be a small amount of things that we couldn't unlock in this version. That said, I know too many people who adore this style of game not to feature it, and even though I only spent a short while with it, I did find it clever and charming, which is why it made this list. Another hilarious title we're bringing to your attention is Squirreled Away. I ended up streaming this demo in Discord with a group of our friends watching, and man did we have a good laugh at the pure comedy of my squirrel shenanigans. Searching for golden acorns, making pickaxes with twigs and stones, and employing a turtle as our chauffeur across the water to bigger adventures. Well, it was just a charmingly good time. What I find particularly enjoyable about this title is that it will be co-op, meaning you and your friends can take on life as a squirrel together. It doesn't stop there though, as once you've collected a few items along your journey, you can meditate on them and learn to craft homes and structures to take your forest life up a notch. Make sure to keep your stockpiles flush with acorns, berries, and other shiny trinkets you come across along the way. Honestly, I was shocked at how fun this game was, despite the humor factor. If you've ever dreamed of being a squirrel in the big wide world, well, your time has come. Perhaps you'll be as excited as we were to learn that Sugardew Island is featuring a demo during this month's Next Fest event. And friends, we're pleased to say that this gem of a cozy game is already proving to be the enjoyable experience we'd hoped for. This farming meets shop simulator puts us into the shoes of the only human who's managed to crash land on a mystical island that's horribly out of harmony. Guided by the forest folk and magical spirits, we'll be growing crops and selling them in our shop, in an attempt to accumulate harmony to restore the ecosystem of the island. Doing so will bring back the wildlife and unlock more seeds, better tools, and even the ability to house animals. So the more you farm and sell, the better off this little slice of heaven will be. You'll also have the opportunity to provide crops to the local elemental spirits, which won't reward harmony per se, but will reward relationship points and coins. And those are definitely something worth having too. Honestly, it's such a peaceful experience, boasting no time limits for anything, and working off of an energy system rather than forcing you to pass out every day at midnight, and it's much preferred. So if you're looking for something cozy and cute to play this month, definitely consider giving this demo a shot. Another one for the cozy crew is on the horizon, with Hotel Galactic offering us the chance to run our very own alien hotel. We'll be catering to guests of all different shapes, sizes, and preferences, so get ready to supply a diverse menu and have different room layouts with decorations to appease each species' needs. I have to just say, my favorite thing about this one is the graphics. The Studio Ghibli and calmer pace were deeply appreciated. I could see myself spending a fair few hours just building, expanding, and decorating each new tier and level of our hotel. It won't just be our guests we're managing though, as we'll have a full roster of staff who will also need their own beds, break quarters, bathrooms, and obviously workspaces. Each employee will gain experience as they perform tasks, so rather than just flexing your employees everywhere, there will be a purpose to assigning them to sections of your hotel and letting them thrive. Of course, having 1 or 2 employees who can flex where is needed is always helpful, because balance. A few other systems exist within the game, such as gardening and crafting, and these were simpler side activities that helped stave off the boredom during any periods where guests were less needy. Admittedly, we're getting a pretty well-rounded game with Hotel Galactic, so I'm excited to see where it leads. Another one for our casual management sim lovers is Food Park Manager. Now, I feel like there are so many games in this style coming out, and if I had $1 for each one that came through our email inbox, I'd have a fair few dollars. That being said, I enjoyed the idea of this game, as we're given a nice plot of land and some great customization options with the task of making it our own. We aren't forcefully handheld into placing shops down in a specific order, and we get to go crazy decorating and beautifying the place with dozens of different color combinations. The level of freedom had me playing it through to the end of the demo, and I can admit I enjoyed it. In terms of mechanics, you'll not only be responsible for just placing down the shops and keeping them stocked, but you'll also need to adjust your recipes to what your customers are enjoying that week, and hire park staff to ensure the public bathrooms don't become the stuff of nightmares. It had enough layers to it to keep me entertained and trekking forward. I can also tell there's going to be a lot more available in the full release, considering we only had a tiny corner of our plot of land filled out by the end of the demo. Considering that and how enjoyable the management experience ended up being, I think it's fairly earned its place on this list. Another game we got just a tiny taste of this month was Merchants of Rosewall. This cozy shop management sim puts you in control of a medieval storefront with a pretty decent list of staff, all ready to aid you in crafting items and running the storefront. Each comes equipped with their own set of skills, and if you utilize them correctly, you'll see a boost in production and overall sales. So make sure you take some time to investigate their strengths and weaknesses before just randomly assigning them to stations. Now, I have to say I enjoy the concept of this one. That said, it does just toss us in with not much more than some pop-up tutorials that do a somewhat decent job of educating you on the systems, but overall, you'll need to figure out what base materials are worth crafting and how they play into the higher valued recipes if you don't want to be putting iron ingots on your shelves. That said, I see a lot of potential for Merchants of Rosewall to be enjoyed by those with a management brain, and I do love the overall art and music aesthetic, so I'm curious to see what the full release will offer. Another great management game on the horizon is Hotel Architect. This one is taking a page out of the 2-Point book, offering us a relaxed and sometimes comedic management experience. Right from the start, you'll be put in charge of a hotel, and it'll be up to you to build up rooms, offer different amenities, manage your staff, and pray the critics have something nice to say about you. I have to say, I adore how well thought out this one was. The tutorials did a great job of getting you through the game's mechanics without being incredibly overbearing. You'll also be allowed total freedom to do whatever you want with your hard-earned hotel money. And if that includes building out 30 rooms, or adding too many gyms to appease the crazed, sporty guests, well, that's up to you. Each location also offers unique challenges to complete, with decorative items to spice up your space as a reward. That might not be too enticing at first, but a lot of these items appeal heavily to the guests, so it's worth it to please the people. The demo gives us a look at 2 of the map locations, but there are quite a few more coming in the full release, so be prepared for plenty of playtime. If you've ever had dreams of running your very own wizard school, then Wizdom Academy might be just what you're looking for. Another title that falls heavily into the management genre and offers a fairly relaxing experience, aside from the fact that sometimes your students might get a tad rambunctious and set the building on fire. It will be your job to not only craft the school, but also manage the curriculum, hire staff, and ensure you're building additional amenities that will keep your students sane, rather than cooped up in class all day. The happier they are, the more likely you won't be forking out time and resources to repair damaged buildings. If you're successful, your students will take their final evaluation test and graduate, granting your school prestige, which leads to better upgrades, facilities, and degree programs. Now, I actually struggled a bit when trying to figure out how to get someone through the more complex degrees, so don't go into this thinking it's going to be a cakewalk either. If you don't get a chance to check it out for Steam Next Fest, don't worry, the full release is coming soon on April 17th. I'm happy to report that we're finally at the end of our video. Honestly, there are dozens more demos that we could check out and also recommend to you. And believe me, we still have a few more videos coming over the next week or two that will cover some of our tippy-top favorites. But I'm so burnt out on demos after playing them non-stop for the last month that I need a solid few weeks of playing full releases to rest my mind from the constant game swapping. Regardless, we truly hope you found something amazing to add to your wish list, and you can count on us to keep you in the know about all the great games on the horizon. So make sure you hit that subscribe button before you go so we can do just that. For now, we'll give a huge thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.